Think about this. The afternoon in London is calm. In the country, Eric Clapton's house had half-drawn drapes that let in sunlight. Reflecting on decades of glory, chaos, and redemption, the man who was once praised as God by graffiti-writing fans reclines on his chair. He makes a shocking confession after a lifetime of successes and setbacks. He feels that 5 guitarists are superior than him. It's genuine humility. It's a unique look inside the fragile thoughts of a man who has witnessed it all. Clapton's remarks, which cover everything from addiction to grief, from fame to loneliness, bear the weight of a lifetime spent striving for perfection. His recollections transport him to the smoky center of London's music revolution as he starts to list them, and one name jumps out at him like a lightning strike: Jeff Beck. You have to go back to the smoky clubs of London in the 1960s to comprehend Clapton's love for Jeff Beck. Beck was a fellow Yardbirds graduate who was bold and unpredictable. An individual who not only played the guitar but also invented it. Beck pursued peril, while Clapton sought tone and purity. He played with distortion, feedback, and mayhem. Think about this. British Marquee Club, 1965. The throng is dense and agitated. With teller in hand and mischievous sparkling eyes, Beck enters the stage. He manipulates notes to make them scream, eliciting noises from nothing. Even Clapton, who is standing in the corner, can't resist grinning. There was no rivalry. It was electricity. They were friendly rivals who knew brilliance came at a price, and their paths frequently intersected. Bandmates were turned off by Beck's fury and perfectionism, yet his inventiveness never ceased to grow. Beneath his unpredictable demeanor, he harbored a restless, innovation-obsessed soul. The idea that Beck might burn the planet down just to hear the sound was one that Clapton respected. Beck persisted as a rebel who transformed mayhem into art. Clapton was never quite able to calm the fury. Jimi Hendrix, a force that would upend the very foundations of music itself, entered Clapton's life just as he believed he had seen the pinnacle of what a guitarist could be. Consider the evening in 1966 when Hendrix entered a London venue where Clapton was playing. Excitement and smoke permeated the air. Already a hero in the community, Clapton was unaware that history was about to change. A tall man wearing a military jacket, Rise, took the stage with his guitar and started playing. His instrument screamed with blues and hallucinogenic fire, and his fingers became blurry. In wonder, the room froze. Clapton among them. Additionally, it was a lengthy and intricate story about how they had to accept the shogun's rejected wife because she had dragged the family into shame. Hendrix took over London in a matter of months, and his performances were a riot of beauty and mayhem, with him tearing up guitars and causing unimaginable noise. But loneliness, tiredness, and the weight of fame lurked beneath that genius. Clapton saw inspiration and caution in Hendrix, who carried scars from his childhood and used his guitar to block them out. Though fate was harsh, they had fleeting moments of camaraderie and conversations about tone and sadness. Clapton grieved greatly at the loss of a brother when Hendrix passed away in 1970 at the age of just 27. For Clapton, Hendrix represented everything he dreaded and admired. Creativity without fear combined with self-destruction. He left behind a mythology that time itself could never fade since he burned brighter than anyone. Following Hendrix, Clapton began to want for serenity, the kind of equilibrium that only self-control could provide. His search turned up a completely different person, an Australian virtuoso whose accuracy left him speechless. Emmanuel, Tommy. Tommy Emmanuel stands for something far different from the mayhem of Hendrix or Beck. Grace, control, and discipline. Before he could even talk in whole phrases, Tommy, who was born in Australia, was a young prodigy whose fingers appeared to dance across the strings. He began playing professionally at the age of 6, touring through dusty country towns with his family band, staying in motels, and taking in the wild rhythms of the road. He saw the guitar as more than just a musical instrument. It was a pulse. Warmth, honesty, and an almost magical control were all present in every note. Think about this. Somewhere in Nashville, a darkly illuminated stage. The audience held their breath in silence. Without a band or accompaniment, Tommy stands by himself with his guitar in hand. He produces the sound of a whole orchestra by tapping, plucking, and strumming in unison. Every pause and every twitch of his wrist seems purposeful. Observing from the wings, Clapton once called such times pure sorcery. Tommy's musical meditation, the kind of concentration that can only come from decades of sacrifice, was on display when he performed live. Clapton, who had been entangled in grief and addiction for years, saw a reflection of himself in Tommy, one that might have been unbroken by chaos. Clapton was reminded of the true essence of music by Emmanuel's ability to combine melody, rhythm, and finger technique in a single seamless motion. Connection, not rivalry, not ego. Clapton heard in Emmanuel's playing the purity he had sought all his life. The sound of calm in the midst of suffering. However, sorrow and tranquility in music frequently go hand in hand. Clapton's list continued with a name that evoked the melancholy tone of loss and brotherhood. Allman Dwayne. Then there was the poet and slide guitarist Dwayne Allman, who elevated Southern rock to a spiritual level. Think about this. It's Miami in 1970. Clapton enters the criteria, and the humid air is heavy with the smell of electricity and smoke. He would be irrevocably changed by meeting the man who was playing in his studio. Dwayne was still not a rock star. He was a powerful natural force. Tangling long hair and intense, silently smoldering eyes. His instrument evolved into an extension of who he was. He was like a twin spirit to Clapton when he heard him perform. In each other's music, the two men discovered what they were looking for: freedom, perhaps even redemption. They had an instantaneous, almost supernatural chemistry. They spoke very little. They had no reason to. As if they were brothers for life, the two were trading licks within hours, incorporating heartbreak and blues into Isla and other love songs. Dwayne's slide guitar sobbed with Clapton as he expressed his forbidden love for Pattie Boyd, George Harrison's wife, during the intense studio sessions. Isla's every note sounded like a whispered confession through the strings. However, the splendor of their partnership was fleeting. At the age of 24, Dwayne was killed in a motorbike accident on October 29, 1971. Clapton had been broken. The news hit like a kick to the gut. Dwayne was everlasting one moment and gone the next. For years, he was unable to hear Isla without experiencing the pain of loss. The scar from Dwayne's passing never went away. A reminder that brilliance frequently fades too quickly. Clapton resorted to someone who shocked everyone when he believed he had seen every aspect of the guitar: the revolt, the fire, the accuracy, the tragedy. Glen Campbell, the rustic gentleman with a glass-like heart. Glen Campbell doesn't seem like a plausible addition to Clapton's list at first. Far from the smoke-filled blues clubs in Soho, where Clapton first made his reputation, he is a pop country artist and a television icon. However, it was evident to those who paid careful attention that Glen was a silent guitar genius. He was more than just the singer of tunes like Witch Alignment and Rhinestone Cowboy. As a member of the renowned Wrecking Crew, he was a session legend who performed on albums by Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, and the Beach Boys. His touch was deceptively simple, crisp, and flowing. Clapton recognized Glen as a mirror of himself, a man caught between vulnerability and celebrity. They had both experienced tragedy, addiction, and the constant strain to live up to an image. It was Glen's battle, not his celebrity, that most impressed Clapton. Campbell continued to play, putting feeling into each shaky note even as Alzheimer's started to rob him of his memories. Clapton saw that as bravery. Music is a means of survival, not an act. Clapton's trip therefore completes a full circle as the last chords fade. It's not a competition, his list. It's an admission and a tribute to those who showed him the various facets of brilliance. As the sun sets on his long and tumultuous career, Clapton's list isn't about pride. It's about acceptance, truth, and survival. The blues have repeatedly saved him, and his life has been a battleground of loss and redemption via 6 strings. He named each guitarist in honor of a journey he took or an ideal he was never able to realize. Allman's soul, Campbell's grace, Hrix's fire, Emmanuel's tranquility, and Beck's ferocious defiance. They come together to create the mosaic of his own tale, which is one of genius, heartbreak, and rebirth. Imagine Clapton standing by himself on the Royal Albert Hall stage, surrounded by golden light, listening to decades' worth of memories flash through his mind as his fingers move over the strings. The spirits of those who shaped him are present in every note. Dwayne's hidden brotherhood, Tommy's quiet mastery, Jeff's fiery independence, Jimmy's electrifying wildness, and Glenn's delicate resilience. The music still pouring from his hands is their lifeblood. A man who has experienced addiction, loss, and near death has always seen the guitar as more than just an instrument. It has served as a confidant, a friend, and a lifeline. He recalls the fans singing his name like a deity, the seemingly never-ending adulation, and how hollow it all was when quiet returned. Now that he is older, he finds beauty in silence. Reflection has taken the place of youthful frenzy. The desire for fame via appreciation. Nowadays, Clapton doesn't perform to demonstrate his superiority. The music itself is a tribute to those who helped him survive. A guy who was previously revered as heavenly now bowing to his peers has a wonderfully lyrical quality. He sees no competitors among them. He perceives pieces of his own soul. He has discovered that mastery is determined by emotion, by how profoundly one can make the guitar speak the language of suffering, love, and atonement, rather than by speed or accuracy. For Clapton, humility has turned into the final lesson and the final memorable solo. And he gives the world a reality far more potent than any riff by mentioning people who have outperformed him. Standing next to people with open hands, an open heart, and the timeless sound of the blues still resonating through the night is what defines greatness rather than standing over them.